Doctrine Guejre Shalaknai Nohadi Dik and Jaquink Oshoy Leads Doctrine Shija Tristan Va Geichat Tanana Chiefs Conference, Denakke Morris Thompson, Doyon Foundation, Gwinklo Masicho Govaicha Nithans, Jugat Nithlitz Agarecha. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm here with our friend Tristan Madros, and we're here to talk about Dinjijuka language, our native language. This is a collaboration between the Doyon Foundation, Tanana Chiefs Conference, Denakke and Morris Thompson. So without delay, we welcome Tristan, and he can introduce himself about where he's from and his background.
John Huzun said that Klikna Nishan Tristan Madros Suza go Gashta Hats Incident Slit. My name's Tristan Madros. I'm from Caltag. Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you.
Well, recently Doyon Foundation profiled you for the Language Champion series, and in the article you stated, language is what grounds me. And would you care to kind of expand on that and share, what does that mean for you?
For me, language is what grounds me. I guess it means that feeling you get when you speak your language or you hear your language. The late Dr. Pauline Carlo touched on that a few times, where she said, your language is you. You could feel it when you speak it. And every time she ran into somebody she knew, and she knew they spoke it, they were right there speaking Khoikhon. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that was one of the best things I remember running into her, was every time we seen her, she would switch automatically into Khoikhon. And just to hear that, the joy I felt from hearing that, and it just has a strong feeling to use your language. And even when times get tough, prayers in our language feel more better to say them in our language for me. And that's what I do.
Certainly I agree that, working with our elders, I remember Pauline and all the wisdom that she had to share, and other elders you grew up with, those are the folks that maybe you learned, what you know of the Denakke language from?
Yeah, I consider myself very fortunate to grow up in Caltag and Nalado. I lived in Caltag till I was from maybe a newborn to about 3. Then I moved to Nalado, stayed there till I was about 6 or 7. Then I moved back home. So I grew up in both places, and both places had pretty strong group of speakers back then. It was only about 20 years ago, Caltag, I think about it now. I remember we'd go by the elders building. There was the blue building where they would all have lunch, and my friend's mom, she was the cook there. So we would go run in there, even we're not supposed to be in there, only the elders are supposed to be in there. But we'd run in there, and then they would give us their cookies, and they would all be conversing in Tlehaka. That was, I remember thinking as a little kid, that sounded so beautiful, so pretty to hear them talking like that. Even I didn't know what they were saying, but just to hear it, I remember. And I spent some time with my grandpa, Franklin Madros, and when he met with his friends too, they would just switch over into Tlehaka, and if I wanted to know what they were talking about, I had to understand, had to start paying attention to what they were saying. And I'm not fluent. I know a lot of words and I can carry on a conversation, but I always have to use English. But I can understand enough to know what they're talking about. And that was part of the thing growing up in Alada too, was there were so much elders, and when we go into the hall, it was just like another place for them. They would hardly speak English to each other, because they would all sit around the same table at the potlatch, and they would sit there and converse in Khoikhon. And I remember that one time I was sitting there in the hall and I was listening to these two grandmas. They were talking in Holikachuk. Here they were gossiping, and I'd asked them how come they're talking about this person, and their faces got so red, and they said, "You understood us?" After that, they started to watch what they were saying around me. That's one of the stories about that. I guess it was just hearing it growing up, it just stuck with me. Or that's one of the things too, is like home they say Holikachuk, but then a little bit upriver, that's when they start saying Denakke or Denakke and Holikachuk. Yeah, Holikachuk means, the real language.
Okay.
Really, it would be Holikachuk means the language of the native people.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience growing up in Arctic Village and hearing all of our elders speaking in the language, and eventually they had to say, "Yahweh ko hyashot dinehet ako." Don't talk about that one; he's going to understand you. So and then I think that's a really important step, though, that you respond and speak in the language as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they do maybe hear the language and understand, but then it takes that extra effort to make, to respond in the language to someone who's speaking to you or having a conversation. That makes a big difference when you're challenging yourself to kind of put that little extra step there to not only understand, but to reply and speak.
Yeah, that is a pretty big step. People don't think it's a big step, but when an elder's talking to you and, just Holikachuk, and then just to make that jump to switch from English to Khoikhon, to start trying to converse with them in Khoikhon, that's a big step, to me anyway. Like, you have to feel confident enough to start carrying on a conversation with them.
So the elders were surprised that you could hear them, but they were probably also happy that,
probably.
I remember certain elders, when I was growing up, they would get a real kick out of it and just be happy that a young person is responding and speaking in the language to them.
Yeah.
So you also said in the article that without the language, there's something missing. Like, how would you describe that? What would you say is missing?
I think that part of me that I felt was missing was because I think I heard the elders speaking it. My parents, they know some words and they could understand a bit of it, but they didn't use it in the household. I mean, most of the children know, "Oni, come here," or no, don't touch that, or "Kehan, eat." We know commands, and I think it was when I was younger, I started to feel like a part of me was missing, because I would hear the old people speaking it, then my parents' age where they didn't really speak it, then I wanted to fill that part, because I knew how to sing. My grandpa taught me how to sing, and then I learned from some more songs from tapes and different elders and stuff. But still, even learning songs, I didn't know what I was saying in those songs. Like one of the songs would say, "Airplane ma'al-siti aslakun." I didn't know what that meant. I knew it meant something about the airplane because I caught the English part. But then that's when I really wanted to start pushing that. And after that, I felt like, I felt whole. I could understand. After it was airplane ma'al-siti aslakun means the wind is pushing on the airplane.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what. And then I felt better. I felt better after that when I started to sing, because when I sing those songs, I could understand the words in them, and it's a feeling I can't describe. You know, you understand what that song maker is saying in the song.
It sounds like it's kind of a poetic expression too.
Yeah.
It's like it was as of course with songs, lyrics mean a lot, and you distill things into a very short. You know, lyrics aren't a full-length story or a novel, but you know they capture a story, and you're learning about that story and the connection to the history of it. So I think that's really wonderful.
I think that's where they go into, you know, poetic justice. You know, you can't really understand what that song maker is putting into their song. It won't make sense to some people, but to that song maker, they know what they're saying in there. Like, you know, when I made a song, memorial song for my late grandpa, when we made his hiya, or that's our memorial potlatch. He was 86 at the time he died, but in his song I put Adonka Hadinyo, it means you left us too soon. A lot of people were thinking, you know, he was old when he died. That's what they were thinking. They didn't understand why I put that in there. To me, why I put that in there was because it felt like he'd left me too soon. Because like he wasn't done teaching me, you know. That's why I put that in there.
Still so much to learn.
Yeah.
Recently, you also did some recording for the Doyon Languages Online project, and you did some recording in Holikachuk, which is another language just downriver, or on the Anoka River originally, but now it's in Grayling. But what was that experience like for you?
That was a big learning experience too. My grandpa, Franklin, his mother was from Dishkakat, that's way up the Anoka River. So him and his siblings, they knew that Holikachuk language, the Anoka River language. But we didn't know really. And it wasn't until I went to grade school when we started noticing there was a difference in the dialects, I guess you could call it. Like Celtic and Nulato have the same dialect. You go to Kaikuk, it's only 18 miles away from Nulato, and there's a difference. For instance, they'll say Anabase up in Kaikuk, but Nulato Celtic will say Anamase. The B's change to the M's. And we'll say like Ina for mom, they say Ina-a. Or you could, that's... Then there are different words that change also. Like Nachbaya is fox in central dialect. Lower dialect, it would be Kagalgoy, that's fox. You see the word changed, the actual word changes.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah. And I think that's the Holikachuk influence on the Khoikhon. Because my grandpa and them used to speak part Holikachuk and Khoikhon. I noticed that when I would hear them, I think back on it now. And then when I started as a content creator, I had originally thought I was going to be for the Denakke group. And then I went into the office one day and Nathan was standing there and he said, "You can record today." And I said, "Okay." And I went into the recording room and Elizabeth was there. And I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Tristan Madros." She said, "I'm Elizabeth Keating." She said, "You're going to help me with the Holikachuk course." And I said, "I guess so." And so I sat down and we started going through it. And what I had trouble with was to switch from Khoikhon to Holikachuk. Khoikhon it's so guttural, you know. We use a lot of sounds in our throat, and to switch into Holikachuk it's so front spoken. Like we use a TL in Khoikhon, and that's a and in Holikachuk they'll use a TH, and that's that sound. And after I'd recorded that one lesson, another content creator, a linguist that was working on the Holikachuk course with us. She went through and edited and listened to my recordings, and she had to put in there almost every other word was, he's pronouncing it like Koikon.
Okay.
So I had trouble to switch back. Yeah, like we say soup in lower dialect would be tosh, but then Holikachuk could be tad is.
Okay.
You know, it's just that switching from the back of your mouth to the front was the one that was an eye opener. And then more or less going through it too, it just brought back memories of hearing them, my grandpa, them use some Holikachuk. Like, some words don't have really a difference too. Holikachuk for Indian ice cream, they say nastlad. Caltech, we say nastlada. Kaikuk, they'll say nastlada.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one word that I always go back to because it actually shows the different changes in the dialect.
So that when you sat down to record with Elizabeth, that was the first you met her?
Yeah, that was the first time I'd met her.
Okay.
And it was more or less me and her were going back and forth, just trying to figure out how to say this one. Because she is a learner, her too, she said. And what they needed for the Holikachuk course was somebody that had a clear voice and that had some exposure to Holikachuk language. Yeah.
And then you had some discoveries together, talking with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
You might be related.
Yeah, we are actually going through, and then I was mentioning something about a song that I think somebody from the Andre family had made, and she said Andres, her uncle, and then that's when she said her uncle Miesel was from Caltech.
Okay.
I said, oh, that's Grandpa Miesel. That was Grandpa Datin's brother. Grandpa Datin was my Grandma Maggie's husband. Yeah. So we found out we were related. And then she said she knew that she was related to people in Caltech, like her first cousins that are still there. Yeah.
So yeah, through the language, discovering all those historical family relationships, and yeah.
Then that's when she said she used to go to 22 Mile all the time. That's 22 miles below Caltech. They would go up there to visit the Andres and them because that's where they'd lived.
There's a lot of songs too that are shared between that area and Nulato, Caltech.
Mainly the stick dance.
Okay.
The hiya is the part that's shared. Their songs, I noticed, are a little different. They use drums and dance fans and masks. We don't, and they have different motions in that. We don't use, only time we use drum is for New Year's celebration, and that's from the trading festival that they used to have.
Yeah, songs are a wonderful way of sharing stories and language and history and connections, and even the connections we have beyond with our ancestors.
Yeah.
And there was another song that several years ago, yourself and others at a conference here in town at the university composed.
Yeah.
Based on a tune, right, from an older song, but you came up with new lyrics for it. Is that right?
Yeah. And we kept the tune the same. That song, Denakke, it's called For Our People. That was with several elders and people from the Denakke group, and also several elders from the Minto group, and also a couple other younger people from the Minto group. We were supposed to have a presentation at the end of the conference, and right there we started to compose that song. And it was the first time that a song had been composed with two languages in there. There's the Denakke language in there and the Bente Khotana Kanaga language in there. But the tune comes from an older song called Suraslan that comes from the old village of Cochrines. And my grandpa said the first time he'd heard that song was 1928. And we've been singing it at home since. And also in Minto they sing it. It's just different versions of it, but the tune is the same. So with that song, we kept we took the tune and we just put new words in there. Like the Denakke one says, that's we're joyfully learning. Yeah, Satsi is joyfully, Hazelach is learning.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bente Koktana Kanaga part would be Nanek Traandil Na Choya, means we're doing this for our grandchildren, we're doing this for future generations.
Oh, nice.
And then Hedoroch Danish Teich means kind of like we're carrying it forward.
So the lyrics were made relevant to language and language learning these days and younger people.
Yeah. And Loya means it's an indirect term to the creator, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that that part in there was because whenever we see somebody that we know or from home, we're going to hey, how are you? You know, that's just the greeting.
Uh-huh.
So that's what David was actually one that put that part in there, David Engels. And the elders at that particular song-making session said they were hoping that that song will be sung all over. Because in a way, that song is a prayer for our language to go forward.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you feel okay sharing a little bit of the song?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, great.
It's he 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 ho slotzeloya he 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 ho slotzeloya Sotziye shledozel Sotziye shledozel he 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 ho slotzeloya he 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 ho slotzeloya nanek treandena choya nanek treandena choya he 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 ho slotzeloya he 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 ho slotzeloya hedorot enishach hedorot enishach he 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 ho slotzeloya he 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 ho slotzeloya.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Masicho.
That song, the tune comes from is Surashlan. I'll sing just a part of that one, and you'll hear the tune. It's Surashlan doot Surashlan doot yeah he sue yeah, he ho suahi. Yeah, that's that old song from. We borrowed the tune from
Many generations ago.
Yeah, we actually paid for that tune.
Okay.
Was the song maker, Louis Pilot. His grandson is the Benedict Jones from Kaikuk.
Okay.
So, out of respect for that song maker, because in a way the song maker has a copyright to that tune. Mm-hmm. And that Benedict is his grandson. So at the Nakanaga in Tanacross, we presented Benedict Jones with a chief's belt, you know, a chief's strap. Wow. And that was to pay him for using his grandpa's tune. Yeah.
Just a wonderful song about our languages and about learning and about the culture. And
yeah.
Really, Masit Cho for sharing that. And also Masit Cho for joining us and really enjoy the conversation. And there's still so much to learn from our languages and our elders. And I just want to thank Tristan Masit.
Thank you for inviting me.